Alright guys, so now we're going to talk about the position property, which has to do with positioning elements in certain places on the page. So we're going to create a new file here called 11 underscore position.html. And let's put in our head body tags, and for the title, we'll just say CSS positioning. And let's do our style tags. And as far as the HTML goes, I just want to have 5 boxes, and we're going to format them to just be square colored boxes, and we want to position them in certain ways. So each one will have its own ID. Let's do box 1, but I also want them to have a class of box because that's what we're going to use to create the height and width. And let's do 5 of these. Okay, so this will be box 2, 3, 4, and 5. And let's go up here and style the box class to have a width of 100 pixels and a height of 100 pixels. Now if I save this and we open this up, it's going to be blank because we have no backgrounds for these boxes. So each one will have a different color background. So let's grab box 1. Let's give it a background of red. And then I'm going to just copy this down so we have 5 of them. And let's do box 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we'll do red, yellow, green, blue, and orange. Okay, so let's save this. And now everything by default has a position of static. Okay, if I do a position here and say static, that's actually the default. I'll save it. It's the same. Now I just want to show you a quick screen right here that has all the possible values of position. So static is the default, and it's not affected by top, bottom, left, and right properties. In CSS, we have properties where we can let's say for top, we want to move it from the top a certain amount of pixels or percentage. We can do that, but we can't do it if it's position static. Okay. Relative, we can use these values, top, bottom, left, right, and it'll cause them to be moved from their normal position. Okay. And whatever its normal position would be on the page, we can move it from that. Now, absolute is different because absolute, it pertains to its parent element. So if you have a parent, like let's say a div that's surrounding other divs, you would make the inner divs absolute and the outer div or its parent relative, and then you could position it within that parent. Okay, and I'm going to give you an example of that. Fixed is actually positioned to the viewport, meaning the whole browser window, so it'll stay at that place even if you scroll down or whatever. And then sticky is similar to fixed, except you can stick it in a certain position, like at the top. Okay, when you're scrolling down, if you want it to stay at the top, you could use sticky, and this is used a lot for menus where you always want the menu to show at the top no matter what, so you can navigate the site. All right, so I'm going to give you examples of all of these. So we already looked at static, that's just the default. Let's change this to relative. And since we set it to relative, we can actually use top, right, bottom, and left properties. So let's say we want to push this, let's say 50 pixels from the top, and from the left, we want to push it 50 pixels. And I'll save that, and notice the red box has now moved 50 down and 50 over from the left. Okay, and if we didn't do position relative and I save, it doesn't work. Okay, so it's going to be from its natural place. We can move it. Now absolute, like I said, has to do with inside of a parent. So box 2 and 3, I'm going to make absolute, but I'm going to put them within a container class or a div with the class of container. And if there is no relative parent, it's going to use just the body, okay, or basically the whole browser window here. So let's do that. Now 2 and 3, which are the yellow and green, are within the container. So up here, just so we can see the limits of the container, let's give it a width of 500 pixels, a height of 500 pixels, a background of dark gray, and let's position it relative, because remember the parent has to be position relative. And I'll save that, and there we go. There's the container. Okay. Now box 1 and box 2 are within the container, but let's say we want to move it. We want to move this one 100 pixels down from the top and 100 pixels over from the left. So if I go to box 2 and I say top 100 pixels and left 100 pixels, save it, it doesn't move because it's still static, right? Now, since I want it to move 100 pixels down and out within its container, I want to set it to absolute. So let's say position absolute and save. And now you can see that it moved down 100 pixels and over 100 pixels within its container. Now box 3 is also within the container. So let's just copy this, and let's do, this time we'll do from the bottom right and save. And now within its container, it went from the bottom up 100 pixels and from the right over 100 pixels. So you can precisely put things wherever you want within, positioned absolute within a relative container. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, before we move on to fixed, I just want to mention something, and that's the z-index property. Notice how box 1 is behind the container. So if I wanted to move this in front, I could use the z-index property. So let's go to box 1, which is our red box, and let's add z-index. And if we do just a value of 1, that should do it. Let's save, and now it's in front. So the higher the z-index, then the closer to you it's going to be. If I were to add to the container, which is the big box, if I add a z-index here of 2 and save, it goes in front of the red box because obviously 2 is higher than 1. And you can also have negative values as well. But let's get rid of that. We'll keep the red box up front. But I just wanted to mention that about z-index. All right, so let's do fixed. So box 4, let's say we want position to be fixed. Now watch what happens when I save. Watch what happens to the blue box, or actually the orange box. It seems to disappear, but it didn't disappear. What happened is it's under the blue box, because when it's fixed, it's pulled out of the flow of the document and put right on top. Okay, and this would be the next position after all this stuff. Now, if I were to scroll down, you would see the orange box because the blue would just stay where it is. So let me give you an example of that. We don't have enough content to scroll, but if I just add a crazy height to the body, we'll be able to scroll down. So let's just give the body a height of like 4,000 pixels and save. And now you can see we have a scroll bar. And as I scroll, see how the blue box just stays in a fixed position? So that's what that's going to do. So if you have a web page where maybe you have like an ad or something that's really important that you always want to stay on top, you would use fixed for that. Okay. And the next one I want to look at is sticky, which is similar, but you can actually have it stick in a certain spot. Like let's say the orange box here, we want it to stick to the top when we scroll down. So for box 5, let's say position sticky, and this is used a lot for menus because a lot of times you want the navigation menu to stay at the top no matter where you are on the site. Now where we want it to stick is top 0. So let's save that, and now you'll see the orange one is on top of the blue, and we can change that with the z-index. But let's scroll up and watch when I hit the top with the orange box. It stays there, okay? I keep scrolling and it still stays at the top. So it's really good for top menus or navigation menus. All right, and just to show you, box 5 is orange. If I were to give this a z-index, let's actually give this a negative z-index. So -1 and save, and you can see it goes behind the blue. So hopefully this gives you some insight on the different values for position as well as how z-index works. Now positioning like this isn't used that much in modern websites and UIs because responsiveness and having your layout look good on mobile devices is very important. And when you do things in this way, it's not very mobile friendly, okay? Unless it's like part of a very small area and you have stuff positioned absolute within there. That's still going to look good on a mobile device. But yeah, this stuff isn't used as much anymore than it used to be. All right, so in the next video, we're going to start to look at form styling. And I'm actually going to give this one to you guys as a challenge. I'm going to give you some hints, and I want you to try and style a form based on all the properties that we've learned about so far.